At my brother's engagement party, my parents and the bride's father sat me next to the gift table like I was just a servant. They said I didn't have enough status to be with the important guests. 20 minutes later, the bride's father received a notification. The $6.5 million contract had been canceled. The silence was absolute. I'm Diego, 34 years old, and I run a tech company that generates millions. Nobody in my family knows because I've never been one to boast. I grew up in the shadow of my younger brother, Javier, my parents' favorite. He was always a charismatic one, the one who shone at gatherings, while I was a quiet one, the one who preferred to work on my own things. My parents said Javier would go far, but they always looked at me as if I had something to prove. Today was Javier's engagement party to his fiancée, Manuela. She comes from a wealthy family, and her father, Ricardo Montenegro, is a big construction businessman. I was happy for my brother, but I also had a surprise. My company, Technova, had closed a $6.5 million deal with Ricardo's company. I planned to announce it at the party to bring the families together and, in part, to silence those who always underestimated me. I arrived at the venue with my wife, Sophia, and our 5-year-old daughter, Emma. The place was pure luxury, bright lights, elegant tables. Everything screamed money. Sophia looked stunning in her blue dress, and Emma couldn't stop talking about Uncle Javier's party. I smiled, though inside I was a bit nervous. Upon entering, my mother greeted me with that forced smile she always gives me. "Diego, so good you came," she said, but it sounded more like obligation than joy. Then she looked at Sophia and Emma. "Make sure the girl doesn't break anything. This place is expensive." Sophia squeezed my hand, and I just nodded. They led us to a small, separate table next to the gifts, with old chairs, nothing like the ones at the center where the important guests were. "Here," I asked, annoyed. My mother looked uncomfortable. "Yes, Diego. Ricardo and we thought you'd be better here, watching the gifts. We don't want any mess." Sophia gave me a furious look, but held back for Emma, who was playing with a ribbon. "Watching the gifts?" I said, "Try not to raise my voice. You're putting me here like I'm a servant." My father approached with his usual tone. "Don't make a scene, Diego. Ricardo said this table is for staff and, well, for those who don't fit with the others. Do your part and don't complicate things." I looked around. At the main tables, everyone was laughing, drinking, showing off their expensive suits. Javier was with Manuela, talking to important people. Nobody looked at us. I felt like a stranger at my own brother's party. Sophia whispered, "Calm down, Diego. It's not worth it." But it was worth it. I was fed up. Then Ricardo approached in his impeccable suit. "Diego, thanks for helping with the gifts. It's important everything stays in order," he said, as if he didn't know who I was, even though we negotiated the contract for weeks. I didn't respond, just stared at him with the rage burning inside me. He left without waiting for an answer, and I pulled out my phone. I opened the email for the $6.5 million contract. I'd planned to announce it during the toast, but now I wanted nothing to do with it. I wrote a short email. "Mr. Montenegro, Technova is canceling the $6.5 million contract. We regret any inconvenience." I sent without thinking twice. 20 minutes later, Ricardo checked his phone in the middle of dinner. His face changed. He went pale and looked at me from his table. I didn't look away. The room fell silent. Everyone noticed something was wrong. Ricardo whispered something to Javier, who looked at me, confused. Sophie asked quietly, "What did you do?" "What I had to," I said without hesitation. The dinner was a disaster. Ricardo tried to talk to me, but I ignored him. My parents looked at me like I'd ruined everything. When the toast came, I stood up. Everyone was surprised. Javier looked nervous, and Ricardo wouldn't let go of his phone. "I want to say something," I began, my voice clear. "Today is an important day for Javier and Manuela, but also opened my eyes. Some think I don't have the status to sit with the important guests. They put me by the gifts like I'm an employee, but I don't need their approval. And Mr. Montenegro, I hope the email you received makes it clear that underestimating me comes at a price." The silence was total. Ricardo tried to speak, but couldn't. My parents were red with embarrassment. Javier looked at me like he didn't know me. I took Sophia's and Emma's hands and left without looking back. I knew this wasn't over, but for the first time in a long time, I felt I'd reclaimed some of my dignity. The night air hit my face as we left the hotel. Emma, in her crumpled tulle dress, clung to my hand, confused about why we were leaving so fast. Sophia walked beside me, her silence saying more than words. She was proud of me, but also worried. What I'd done at the party wasn't just an outburst. It was a declaration, and declarations have consequences. We got in the car, and as I started the engine, my phone began to vibrate. Messages from my mother, my father, Javier, even one from Ricardo. I didn't read them. I wasn't ready to deal with them. Emma, from the back seat, asked why everyone was so quiet. Because sometimes people are surprised when someone tells the truth. Little one, I said, forcing a smile. Emma nodded, though she didn't understand, and went back to playing with her ribbon. When we got home, Sophia took me to the kitchen while Emma went to her room. Diego, what's next? She asked, crossing her arms. You canceled a $6.5 million contract. That's not small. Ricardo won't let this go, and neither will your family. I know, I said, running a hand through my hair. But I couldn't stay silent, not after how they treated us. I'm not a piece of furniture they can push into a corner. She sighed but nodded. I support you. Always will. But brace yourself, because this is going to get ugly. She was right. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop. Calls, emails, messages. My mother was the first to attack. Diego, how could you do this to us? You embarrassed the whole family in front of Ricardo's guests. And Javier is devastated. I didn't respond. Then came my father with his usual tone. You're selfish. You always have been. This isn't about you. It's your brother's day. Javier was more direct. He called at noon, his voice trembling with anger. Diego, what's wrong with you? You canceled the contract with Ricardo just because you didn't like your table? Really? Are you that childish? This could have helped my future with Manuela. Ricardo's furious, and now he says if we don't get the contract back, there's no wedding. That hurt, not because I cared about Ricardo, but because Javier, my own brother, didn't see what they'd done. Do you realize how they treated us, Javier? I said, trying to stay calm. They put me by the gifts like I was an employee. Sophia, Emma, and you say nothing. You only care about the contract. Of course I care, he shouted. This isn't just about you, Diego. It's my life, my future. If you don't fix this, everything falls apart. Do it for me, please. I hung up. I didn't want to hear more, but within an hour, Ricardo started his own campaign. First, a polite but cold email. Dear Diego, I regret any misunderstanding at the party. I'm sure we can resolve this and keep the contract. Let's talk. Then a call. I didn't answer. Then another email, more desperate. Diego, this is a mistake. My company needs this project. Don't do something you'll regret. Sophia, who was checking my phone while I worked, scoffed. This guy has no shame. He treats you like trash and now begs like nothing happened. He wants the $6.5 million. I said, shrugging. Without the contract, his company falls behind. He knows Technova is his best option. The next few days were chaos. Ricardo wouldn't give up. He started sending messages through intermediaries, mutual business contacts, and even tried reaching some of my Technova employees. Then things got dirtier. One afternoon, while I was taking Emma to park, I got a message from Manuela. It was the first time she'd written me directly. Diego, I don't know what happened at the party, but my dad is desperate. He says if we don't get the contract back, he can't pay for the wedding. Please talk to him. I don't want to lose Javier. I stared at the message, feeling a mix of pity and anger. Ricardo was using his own daughter to manipulate me. It was low, even for him. I replied, I'm sorry, Manuela. This is between your dad and me. That night, Javier showed up at my house unannounced. Sophia let him in but stayed close, ready to step in if things got heated. Javier looked disheveled, with dark circles under his eyes, like he hadn't slept in days. Diego, please, he said, sitting on the couch. I don't know what I did to make you so angry, but this is destroying everything. Ricardo says without the contract, there's no wedding. Manuel is crying all the time. Mom and Dad won't stop saying you're selfish. Just fix this. I looked at him, unsure if I felt more pity or frustration. Fix it, Javier? They humiliated my family. And you're asking me to fix it? Don't you see what they did? It's not about you, he shouted, standing up. It's my life. It's always been like this, Diego. Always thinking about yourself. Can't you do this for me, just once? Sophia stepped in before I could respond. Javier, enough. Diego's not the bad guy here. Your family and Ricardo treated us like trash. And now you want him to fix their problems? Think about it. Javier went silent, staring at the floor. For a moment, I thought he might understand, but then he shook his head and said, If you don't do it, Diego, I'll never forgive you. He left, slamming the door. I didn't sleep that night. I knew Ricardo wouldn't give up, and neither would my family, but what I didn't expect was what came next. A few days later, I got a legal notice. Ricardo had hired a lawyer and was trying to sue me for canceling the contract, claiming there were clauses that obligated me to pay a $50,000 penalty and that the project's cancellation lacked valid justification. I called my lawyer, Martin, who'd handled all of Technova's contracts from the start. Diego, he's got some ground, Martin said after reviewing the documents. The cancellation clause exists. It's not a big deal. $50,000 is nothing for you. But if you fight this in court, it could get uglier. My advice, pay them and move on. Pay that jerk. I said, gripping the phone. After what he did, I give him money? It's not for him, Martin said. It's for you. Cut this off and move on with your life. Don't let them drag you into their game. Sophie agreed. Diego, it's not worth it. Pay and be done with it. Don't let them keep hurting you. They were right, but the idea of giving Ricardo the cent burned me up. Still, I didn't decide right away. I wanted to think, weigh my options. Meanwhile, the messages didn't stop. Ricardo alternated between begging and veiled threats. My mother called, crying, saying I was destroying the family. Javier stopped talking to me completely. One night, while Emma slept and Sophia read on the couch, I sat with a glass of wine and stared out the window. I knew this wouldn't end until I made a final decision. I could fight the lawsuit, spend time and energy in a legal war, or pay and close this chapter. But I also knew that no matter what I chose, something in me had changed. I was no longer the Diego who accepted slights in silence, and though the cost was high, that sense of dignity was worth more than any contract. I was sitting on the couch with a glass of wine, staring out the window, going over the same thing. Ricardo's lawsuit had me trapped. Fight in court, spend months on lawyers and more family drama, or pay the $50,000 and be done with it. It wasn't about the money, that was the least of it. It was the idea of giving something to a guy who treated me like garbage. But something had changed in me that night at the party. I was no longer the Diego who stayed quiet. Whatever I decided, it had to be for me. For Sophia, for Emma, not for them. Sophia put down her book and came over. Stop overthinking, she said with that calm that always grounds me. Do what lets you sleep at night, Diego, not what they want. She was right. The next morning, I called Martin. Pay the $50,000. I said, end this. Good decision, he replied. I'll close it out so Ricardo can't come back. I thought that was it, but Ricardo didn't give up. A couple of days later, while I was reviewing contract at the office, I got a message from him. Diego, thanks for the payment. Let's put this behind us and talk business again. The guy's nerve made me laugh. He really thought I'd work with him after everything. I deleted the message without replying. Then came my mom with the same old story. Diego, you did the right thing paying, but now fix things with Ricardo. Javier's devastated. He says the wedding's off if you don't resolve this. Enough, Mom. I cut her off. I paid. I'm not groveling to Ricardo. It's over. Always so selfish, she yelled. This is about your brother's future. I hung up. I was done with their accusations. with always being seen as the problem. It didn't hurt like it used to. Javier was next. He sent me a long text, unusual for him. Diego, I don't know what I did to make you hate me so much. Manuela and I are fighting to save the wedding. But Ricardo says without your contract, it's over. Please, just talk to him. I'm not asking you to sign. Just calm him down. For me, for the family. It hurt. I won't lie. Javier wasn't a bad guy, just caught in our parents' game, always seeking their approval. I replied, Javier, it's not about you. I'm sorry, but I'm not talking to Ricardo. I hope you and Manuel are okay. He didn't respond. That silence felt like I'd broken something irreparable, but also felt freeing, like I'd finally shed a weight I'd carried for years. Ricardo didn't give up. He kept sending messages through my employees, mutual contacts, trying to patch things up. When that didn't work, he pulled Manuela into it again. She wrote, Diego, I don't know what happened at the party, but my dad's desperate. He says without the contract, there's no wedding. Please talk to him. I don't want to lose Javier. I felt sorry for her, but this was Ricardo manipulating his own daughter. I replied, Manuela, I'm sorry, but this is between your dad and me. Good luck. That night, as Emma slept and Sophia read, I let out what I'd been thinking. I'm done, Sophia. The messages, the fights, all of it. What if we just leave? Go far away, where we can live without this crap. She looked surprised, but then smiled. Seriously? Where? I don't know. Somewhere quiet, with a beach. Emma would love it. I can run the company from anywhere. We started talking, looking up places, imagining a new life. We found a coastal town a few hours by plane. Beach, white sand, few people. Perfect. The idea gave me a rush, though it scared me a little too. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Martine closed a deal with Ricardo, ensuring he couldn't come back. We sold the house, packed the essentials, and told Emma we were moving to the beach. Can I collect shells? She asked, thrilled. Every day, I said, and she squealed with joy. Just before we left, Ricardo made one last move. He called, and I answered out of curiosity. Diego, I screwed up at the party, he said, feigning remorse. I was an idiot, but we can work together again. Your company's the best. I need this project. No, Ricardo, I said flatly. It's not about the contract. It's about respect. You gave me none. Good luck. I hung up before he could go on. The day we left, Javier showed up at the house. I was loading the last boxes into the car when he arrived, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Diego, he said, almost whispering, are you really leaving? It's not about you, I said, closing the trunk. It's for Sophia, Emma, and me. We need a place where we're not fighting ghosts. He looked down. I didn't want it to end like this. I thought we were brothers. We are, I said, but sometimes you have to let go to move forward. I hope you and Manuel are okay. Truly. He gave me a quick, awkward hug and left. It hurt, but it also felt like closing a chapter that had been open too long. We arrived at the coastal town a week later. The house was simple, steps from the sea. Emma spent her days running along the beach, collecting shells. Sophia started painting, something she'd always wanted to do. I worked from a desk with an ocean view, running Technova remotely. It was peaceful, like I could finally breathe. I heard from a friend that Ricardo's company tanked without the contract. I didn't gloat. I just felt pity. My parents sent a couple of emails, full of reproach mixed with concern. I didn't reply. Javier and Manuela got married in a small ceremony, I was told. I wasn't invited, and it didn't hurt. Sometimes, walking along the beach with Emma and Sophia, I think about that night at the party, the silence after my speech, Ricardo's face, Javier's look. It was the moment I stopped being invisible. I paid $50,000, and maybe I lost my family, but I gained something bigger, a life where I don't have to prove anything to anyone. Watching Emma chase waves, laughing with Sophia, I know I wouldn't trade this for anything.